Hi and welcome to Knit with Hannah. I'm Hannah. I'm here with Knitting Natter to help you knit with ease, confidence and joy. And welcome to the first video in the autumn season. Now we have gift knitting to talk about for the next couple of weeks. It's still August, but it is a great time to think about knitting gifts. If you'd like to knit gifts for winter, for even the autumn of course, and indeed for Christmas. So we're going to talk about gift knitting, and I've got some tips for you today. 5 essential tips for if you'd like to start or continue gift knitting. My first tip is to plan ahead. Know when those gifts need to be presented and know that you need yarn, needles and the pattern ready for you to knit, not just the time that you need to knit a particular item. Planning ahead, knowing when those gifts appear in your year, in your calendar, can be really, really important and really helpful to make sure that the item is knitted in time for it to be gifted. That's simple. Just know that those things are ready and waiting in your calendar, and if you want to knit them a gift, then you have to be ready and get yourself organised. Of course, I will talk at the end about the new gift knitting course, gift knitting reboot, and that's where I can help you very much with that kind of thing. So the second tip is have some stash knits ready. The stash knits will be there because it's not stash yarn, it's stash finished items. Those finished items are ready in a drawer, in a box, to wrap and gift. It might be something that you've knitted and it's too small. Perhaps you've knitted your grandchild a jumper, they've grown 3 inches in the time that you've knitted it. You started knitting the right size and now it's the wrong size, so you weren't able to gift it, but it will be ready for another child when they're that size. So put it away, it's all ready to gift. And that kind of thing will happen if you're knitting something for yourself and perhaps you think, oh, well, now I've finished it, the colour just doesn't look quite right, but you know you've got someone with that tone of skin and style of hair and colour winter coat, you know that scarf will go with beautifully. So you set it aside and that gift is ready. Stash knits can be really, really helpful if you want to knit gifts on a long-term basis. So the third tip I have for you is about finding a balance. Let's find that balance between gift knitting and me knitting. Gift knitting and me knitting can mean, does gift knitting overtake your year, or is it in balance with me knitting for yourself? Me knitting feels like cosy and warm and comfortable because you're thinking, I'm going to have this at the end, it's going to sit on my teapot, or I'm going to wear that when it's cold in the winter. That kind of thing can be really, really motivating to keep knitting. And if you're knitting a gift for someone who you really, really love and you're just so excited about gifting this, that can be really, really motivating as well. And if you cling on to that too much, then the me knitting, you completely forget what that feels like and you just end up with the adrenaline to keep gift knitting. Come back to this continuously and say, am I knitting for myself as much or in balance, in harmony with knitting for other people as well? Because what I found when I didn't have that balance was it felt like a bit more of a chore. And the chore meant that I was gifting knits to people who actually I didn't know that well, so the motivation wasn't there as much. And the me knitting became something that wasn't something that I really treasured. It was just, oh, I need to knit something, so I'll just put this on my needles. And I hadn't really thought it through. I'm so much better at that now. I actually let myself think and ponder and understand that a pattern and a knit on my needles has to be something that I'm really excited about knitting. I'm really motivated to complete the item. And by doing that, I'm saying, you know what? This is a knit I'm really excited to finish and I really want to finish. So I keep knitting it and I keep returning to those needles and that yarn because I'm thrilled about it. So find that balance. The gifting and the me knitting can go side by side, and you can find a harmony with them and be excited by both types of knitting. Now, the next one is about having fun with this type of knitting. This type of knitting can mean that you're knitting items that you've never knitted before, that you don't really knit for yourself. It could be that your sister loves cowls, but you love scarves. So whenever you're knitting a cowl, you know it's for your sister. And you're actually quite like knitting them, but you're not that keen on wearing them. It could be that you're knitting in yarns and colours and shades and styles of yarn that you wouldn't knit for yourself. You knit with that when you're knitting gifts. So these things can be really, really helpful and just give you inspiration to say, actually, I fancy that yarn, but I'd never use it myself. Knit it for somebody else. So you can really have fun with it. And also, this is the kind of thing where you might actually enjoy a knit along where you would have thought, nah, that doesn't really suit me. But if a knit along is something that you kind of go, maybe that would be a gift, then really enjoy the experience, and that can be such a real gift for yourself. And then the item that comes out of it could be a gift for someone else. So really think about that too. The experience is such a memory for you. For example, in the summer knit along, we were knitting baby hats. So very obviously, those finished items, we weren't going to wear them ourselves, and babies weren't in there knitting them. So it was very much the experience that the people enjoyed who were knitting, and I enjoyed it too. And we are going to have another knit along in October, and I do hope you'll join us for that. I'll be sharing more information about that in the next few weeks. In September, I'll really start telling you more about it. But yeah, just keep an eye out and make sure you're on the email list as well. I'll leave the link for that below. But yeah, have fun with this type of knit. That's the point. That's the third tip. Really enjoy this type of knit, because it's maybe something that you've never knitted with before. It may be something that the yarn that you've never used before, and really enjoy and indulge in that kind of knit if you'd like to. Now, the fifth tip is about overgiving. I can go on a massive rant about overgiving. I've done it myself and I've experienced it myself, but let's just take one side of overgiving. Overgiving in this sense means that you might be knitting with too much yarn, so the knit ends up too large. You might be knitting for too many hours, and you might be knitting something that's far too complicated, and it ends up inappropriate for the relationship and the occasion in which you're giving. Really try and find that balance. If you're knitting a beautiful cable jumper and it's for your husband or your brother with whom you're really close, then that feels appropriate. Very, very much appropriate. If you are knitting a cable jumper and it's for your third cousin who you hardly ever see, then it really isn't appropriate, and it just feels that bit weird, awkward, when you gift it and he kind of goes, thanks, and then he kind of sneaks it away and hides it in the back of his drawer because he never usually wears wool anyway. Why on earth would you knit it for him? He'd never seen him in a jumper before in his life. That's wasted yarn, that's wasted knitting time, and it's totally inappropriate, awkward and weird. I doubt if this happens very much, but that's just an exaggeration. So remember to find the relationship, the occasion, and the appropriate gift to match those. And that balance, as I said earlier, of me knitting and gift knitting can also become something where you realise that you're knitting maybe the wrong size and too many of the gifts for other people. Okay, we love knitting gifts. Leaving a kiss in every stitch. That's the kind of phrase that I love. Because when you gift that kind of thing, there's an extra special warmth and joy with it. Because it's specially made for that other person. So remember, you're giving a lot of love already with your knits, and yeah, remember that there are lots of ways that you can create gifts and really have joy and play and have fun with this kind of thing too. If you'd like to dive deeper into gift knitting, then Gift Knitting Reboot is a brand new course that I filmed in July on my break and thought, yeah, I love this kind of thing. I have knitted gifts for a long time. I wanted to share all of the lessons that I've learned from it and how I've ended up just kind of organising it in a way that feels so easy now. I love knitting gifts because it all comes together so quickly, and that can mean I really enjoy the process of knitting rather than the what am I going to knit? Which yarn am I going to use? Who am I knitting for? It all becomes too much, and sometimes you just end up leaving it because it just doesn't work. That really doesn't happen with me much anymore. I'm really thrilled to say that when I knit gifts, it works. It's intentional and it makes sense. And that's what I'm sharing with you in Gift Knitting Reboot. I'd love that for you too. We can become a community that gift knits with intention, with joy, with love, and where it feels right every time. And those hugs that you get when you gift those knits, well, they just feel amazing. I know because I've had some of them. So let's do that together. Gift Knitting Reboot. I'm right in there, it's all pre-recorded. You can dive into it today if you want to. I'll leave the link below. Gift Knitting Reboot. It's right there in the Knit with Hannah Academy. Do go and have a look at that. Have fun with that. Enjoy your gift knitting. And I do hope these 5 tips have been helpful. And yeah, we'll be gift knitting and preparing our gifts. I know for Christmas this year, it's a big part of knitting for many, many knitters around the world. But for so many other occasions throughout the year as well. Thanks so much for joining me today and for joining me in the new autumn season of Knit with Hannah. See you again soon, next week I do hope. Bye for now. Happy knitting. Hi and welcome to Knit with Hannah. I'm Hannah, I'm here with Knitting Natter to help you learn to knit the easy way. No, I'm not. I keep having to stop because there are so many cars going past and it's still warm, so I've got the windows open.